you owe it to them to do the best you can.
Yeah, those early shows that you played. What's the what's the biggest difference for yourself? Not just playing a small show for just 25 people and a amazing big crowd. What kind of is it really different to play for 25 people or for 10,000 people maybe on a festival?
I think at a certain point, I think very specifically, I remember the first time we played Glastonbury where you walk on stage and I felt like John Bonham or something. There was just like a sea of British people out there, just like, oh my God. And you kind of realize, I don't know, that the concert or the way you approach playing a concert and say a venue like the Cake Shop, which is, I really like that venue. It's in New York in the Lower East Side, kind of in the basement. You know, when you're playing for 50 people, you're just playing for your friends. You know, you kind of have to change your style, not musically, but just in the way, you know, the way you approach performing when you're playing on this big stage and everything. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's about the four of us and what we do together and you know, trying to sound good. It's always been our goal to be as tight as possible. Some people might not like that. Some people, you know, like ramshackle or a little bit more unpredictable lashes, but we always wanted to present the songs in a good way. So I don't know. It's just like a slightly different mentality, but ultimately it's just about playing the best you can.
Okay, yeah. If you're standing on the stage of maybe Glastonbury, maybe Lowlands, seeing thousands of people, are you still with both feet on the ground, like, oh, I'm just drumming, or is it like, wow, I'm famous?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, a show is a show, and I think I kind of realized this early on, is that anytime anybody pays any amount of money to see you perform, you owe it to them to do the best you can. So if it's, you know, 40,000 people at Glastonbury or it's 25 people at Cake Shop, you know, you want to just put on a good show. So ultimately that's the thing. And it's really not about me or Chris Bayo or whatever. At least in my mind, it's about meshing well with the other three guys and putting on a good show for the kids or the people that came to see you.
Okay. Yeah. When did you first start dreaming about having a career in music? How long do we have to go back in time? So far.
Well, music was really the only, I guess besides sports, was the only thing that really ever held my attention for too long. And when you started playing instruments in like 3rd or 4th grade, you know, it was always the thing that I looked forward to in the day. And but I think, you know, it didn't really. Well, my day job was in the music, tangentially related, but I don't know. It was strange when people started I think it was when labels really started approaching us, especially a label like XL, which is we ended up signing with, which we all knew a lot of the artists they had and liked them, and you could tell that they had the infrastructure to help people get noticed and get their music in front of people, but also give the artists the freedom to do what they wanted and to do it in a really respectful and kind of like cool way. So I think like when people like that started getting in touch with us and being like, hey, like we like your stuff, you know, blah blah blah, you want to meet? I think that's when you really started thinking, oh cool, I can quit my job.
How was that feeling to go to your boss and say, I quit?
It was pretty. I mean, my boss was a cool guy. It wasn't like.
What was your job before you?
I was an archives coordinator for like Sony Music, RCA Sony. So essentially, I was like a librarian for their catalog of tapes. But no, I mean, it was, you know, it was cool. Just, you know, I mean, he'd come to some shows, like he knew that I was in a band and stuff. So I just said, yeah, I'm gonna have to leave. So it's pretty non-confrontational.
Yeah. So no hard feelings back then.
I don't think so. I think he's pretty psyched.
Yeah. We go back in time again a little bit. The very first rehearsal you had with Vampire Weekend. Can you remember how that was like?
Yeah, it was February 6th of 2006. I believe it was a Monday night. It was, Ezra had sent out an email. We'd kind of talked, there had been talk about starting a band. We had worked together in various ways before, but this was kind of the first time we sat down as a conceptual Vampire Weekend unit, and that was the name we had at the beginning. And I was actually the guitarist at that point. We weren't sure what the drumming situation was, and we played a couple songs. I think we had like Oxford Comma and Walcott were the first 2 songs we had. And yeah, I mean, I remember just kind of talking about it and really being excited because I knew these guys well and trusted them and thought that they were all, you know, really very talented people. So I was psyched to be a part of this group. But I also remember that we had to end the rehearsal by 8:45 so Chris Baio could make it to watch 24, because that started at 9 on Monday nights on Fox.
Okay, last question. To go a little bit back to the African influences everybody always is talking about. Do you know what the people in Africa think about your music?
Oh man. Well, I think ultimately we don't play. I think, like I said, we don't play African music at all. We play music that you know is slightly, you know, is influenced by it. But I really have no idea what the consensus opinion is. But we've met some people. There was someone actually very early on who didn't really know that well, but she went to our college and she saw us and she wrote us a really nice email saying how, you know, somehow our music reminded her of how she, or where she grew up. And also there's a guy named Esau who's in a band called The Very Best, who just put out a record. I don't know if you've heard of it over here, but he's from Malawi, and Ezra has actually sang on his record, and they did like a remix of Cape Cod Kwasa Kwasa, and he's been very nice, and he's been very enthusiastic about what we do. And I think again, I don't know anything past the people that we've met, but we met like Angelique Kidjo and stuff, and she was into it. She said she was like very complimentary when you know we played a show kind of that involved her as well. And it doesn't seem like the musicians from Africa that we've met don't really seem too concerned about, you know, what comes from where. It seems to be more of a Western hang-up as to where everything comes from. How can you do this sort of thing? They just seem to think of it as music and take it as that.
Would you like to play there?
Africa, yeah, I mean, definitely. Well, I had a personal dream to play at some sort of World Cup event next year in South Africa. I don't think that's going to happen though. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always exciting to go to places and play music for people. So if there's ever I don't think there has been an opportunity that has worked in the schedule or whatever. But yeah, I think hopefully we'll get there at some point.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Yeah, cool.